Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PD Sports Podcast. We are up and about up here on YouTube. Damo, how you going?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Pretty good day off for me, and obviously you're on holidays, and managed to even watch the boys live this morning, which was good.
Yeah.
And been a pretty good day.
Can't complain when we're getting 6-1 wins as well. For those that are listening, this whole episode is up on YouTube. Make sure you get over to Paulie29. That's my channel at the moment. Damo's got his channel, Damo_23, where he's got a lot of FM content there. Probably enough of the plug to start off with. Another big weekend of Premier League action.
Yeah.
Massive results, either positive or negative, for some of the title favourites. We're going to get straight into Arsenal, West Ham. I put up a short last night already reiterating my point that Arsenal are bottling the league away. We spoke about it last week. You were 50-50 mainly because of the game that they still needed to play. I think that was with the intention of Arsenal probably going on and winning out between West Ham, Southampton before they play Man City.
Correct.
That hasn't happened. Arsenal have gone and thrown another 2-0 lead away. This time in probably more dramatic circumstances. The shoe was definitely on the other foot this time round this week because Arsenal were 2-0 up inside 10 minutes practically. Scored two really nice goals. Jesus off the back of some really good play from Martinelli, and Odegaard with a great side foot finish to go 2-0 up very, very early on. Cruising until Partey thinks he's got everything under control. Turns the ball over. Handball happens. There's a penalty there. London Stadium gets up and about. Jared Bowen, been nowhere all season, finds a goal. Sandwiched in between those two moments, though, Saka goes and misses the penalty pretty much the exact same way that Salah missed his penalty the week before.
A lot of penalty misses at the moment in the
I know,
Premier League.
it's crazy. You think the pressure's really starting to tighten up, and some players who...
Even Tony's missed a pen.
I was about to say that. So some players who you don't anticipate normally missing penalties. But the draw means more now than it did against Liverpool.
100%.
You can 100% Liverpool, Anfield, Arsenal's not a combination that they like particularly. So for Arsenal, if you offered them a point at the start of the game against Liverpool, they would have taken it on the proviso that they get 3 points at London Stadium. Hasn't happened, and I don't know if you've listened to it. The interview with Arteta is really interesting after the game. By your look, I'm going to assume you haven't heard it.
I usually listen to most, but because my weekend has been so crazy and busy, I actually haven't heard Arteta's or Guardiola's. I've heard Klopp's, obviously, and I've heard... I've heard a couple of others.
So
not them
there were
two.
some big questions about mentality.
Yeah.
And fatigue and what Arsenal need to do to overcome this. And Arteta was very firm that there's no excuse for fatigue. He goes, if we were fatigued, we wouldn't come out the gates the way we do. So he doesn't believe that fatigue is a factor. But he mentioned pressure. And he goes, if my players were tense, you'd see it from minute one. But there's a mentality issue that we need to overcome in order to kill teams off and cut them by the throat. So he's recognising that there's something wrong there. When they're getting to 2-0, they're getting complacent. And he didn't know how to answer the questions around the complacency. So that's the big thing for me. Surely you can't be getting complacent when you've got this Man City team breathing down your neck.
Oh, 100%. We've been there. We know what that feels like.
And
It's
we've
not
thrown
fun.
it away more than we've held on. And that's the problem. And that's what I fear for Arsenal, is that you put in this huge shift and this huge effort, but it's all for nothing because you drop some silly points. Now, Man City have dropped some of those points early in the season, but they love being in the position they're in now. They love having to go and win 11, 12 games in a row and just hit fourth gear and overpower teams.
Look, for me, it's the good old adage that Ferguson used to say, as someone that is a Ferguson lover, season doesn't start till game week 30.
Yeah.
You know, up until game week 30, results happen. It's all about putting yourself in a position for the season to start. Now it's season. Now it's game time. This is where champions are made and the not-so-ready fall away. The reason why I had it 55-45 in favour of Arsenal last week was because I expected them to beat West Ham and to beat Southampton, and that puts massive pressure in City in that moment to go and win.
Yeah.
Now it's almost in a position, if you're City, you know as long as you don't lose to Arsenal in that game,
It's in your hands.
it's probably in your hands, and Arsenal more than likely will probably bottle something else throughout the line. I want to touch on the two different type of 2-2s as well. The Liverpool one was, well, as you mentioned, not historically a great pace, not a great team for Arsenal.
Recent history.
That is correct. And then on top of that as well, by the end of the game, Aaron Ramsdale's the reason he got a point. This game here, it was what 5-10 minutes of madness.
Yeah.
About that, and then
Either side at half time again.
and on top of that as well, they never seem to have the answer to be able to stop that slide, and they never seem to have the answer to then find that killer goal. A team that's probably been in that situation, that champions elect, I actually think finds a 93rd minute winner there, right?
Like they did against Villa.
I was going to say that. Like they've seen moments. This is why I had them 55-45, because I saw enough moments to think maybe, just maybe, there's going to be those moments going on. Hasn't happened. I think now it definitely swings the title 70-30 in favour of City. But the other one that, I know I haven't watched Arteta's interview, but the interviews or the post-match I watched of this game was actually all the Sky Sports.
Yeah.
And Gary Neville's trying to have an argument with Roy Keane and... I'm tempted to say it's Michael Richards, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Because I think he's on BT, so I'm definitely wrong.
No, he's on Sky as well.
And it was more, Neville was like, if you were Arsenal, you would snap your hand off of this right now. And if you come second, it's a really good year. And Roy Keane put the other shoe on the foot, and I want to know where you sit. He's saying, no, you can't be in this position and throw it away and be happy with that season.
Yeah.
Which camp do you sit on? Because I understand both points of view then. It was a pretty heated discussion. That's my post-game, what I've watched. But yeah.
I'm with Roy Keane there. I think you need to be adapting your season objectives. So give Arsenal second place at the start of the season with no context, they bite your hand off and they take it. But when you have led the charge the whole season, I think, and their January strategy showed that they were in win now mode. You don't go and get Trossard and Jorginho.
Correct.
If you don't think you're a chance. They've gone and strengthened, and they've got that Polish centre-back, that Kishwa, whatever, I don't know what his name is. But he played the World Cup. You've gone and brought in 3 guys right now to fill your squad out so that you can compete across the European and Premier League front. So if Liverpool, it's like the same thing with Liverpool 2013. We were shattered that we didn't win that league, but we should have been nowhere near that league at the time compared to City. And with 3 games to go, we still had that in our hands. And we were disappointed that we didn't win the league. Although we haven't been in the Champions League for years before that, we were disappointed that we didn't win that title. And if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be feeling the exact same way that we did in 13-14, because when you're that close, you just got to get it done, because what it means long term is a lot more. So yes, they'll get a year of Champions League.
Yeah.
If they lose this title, though, that could be very mentally scarring on the team and do what we did, and then you fall away again for a couple of years. But if you win this title, this next transfer window, we're going to the Premier League champions. You can build on that better than you come second. Oh, but now Martinelli's going to go to Real Madrid, the same way that Suarez just went to Barca, and we lost that whole window because we didn't win the title.
Yeah.
So that's my worry. And Sterling goes off to Man City, and our team got pulled apart very quickly. And then within a few months, Brendan was gone too. So if I was Arsenal, you got to make this one count to make sure that you've got that structure there for the next season.
And I'm not going to sit here and write them off. And I'm firmly in the camp as well that without context, I agree with Gary Neville. With context, I'm on the Roy Keane side of the fence because we've been there in 2013. I think the other thing that I didn't like about this from the Arsenal perspective is how does this now matter mentally to them?
Yeah.
I think if it was they were 2-0 down against West Ham, they got a 2-2.
Yeah, it's different.
That mentally could be a very different picture. To be 2-0 up in 2 completely different games.
A week apart, not even.
What happens if Southampton get the first one in the first 5 minutes at Southampton next week?
Well, it's at the Emirates too. You imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like.
Yeah.
So, look, I think we're going to be teetering around this issue for a few more weeks. I think once we see what happened City-Arsenal, we're going to get a better picture on what's going on.
Correct.
I don't think it matters anymore what Arsenal do. If Arsenal lose that Southampton game or draw it, their position's not going to change from here now. And I actually don't think if they win, their position changes much. But for that City game, City playing in the FA Cup, I don't know if they play Champions League between that as well. I think they might. They might have Champions League this week and then straight into an FA Cup. So they still have a couple of games still to play, but they're just rolling. They're rolling. And let's just move straight into City as well. What I liked about City in this game was you're 2-0 up at half time. Was it 3-0? 2?
2,
I think it was
sure.
2.
2 because Haaland, I think, scores after half time, right?
No, he came off at half time. And that's what I was about to say.
No, so Haaland scores 2 and then they scored just after half time.
So
that's it.
They're 2-0 up and they go, come on, off you get. And this is the rest. Like, we're talking about how's Haaland going to get rested this season. None of us thought it'd be he plays 45 minutes, gets 2 goals. And this is not the first time that he's started, scored 1, set 1 up, played another 5-10 and come off after 50 minutes, 55 minutes. So Guardiola has managed him so well this year. He's one goal away from the all-time Premier League record with 7 games still to play, and doesn't look like he's stopping anytime soon. Man City are just a different beast. This is a very different way of Man City playing, but it's still the domination of we've got better players than you. We're going into every game believing we're going to win, and if they don't win, it's because it's something that they have done. I never thought the way that they've moved away from Cancelo, taken away, they flipped their inverted wing backs. So traditionally, that right wing back was a wing back. It was Kyle Walker bombing in behind down the byline. Now they've gone to the left hand side through Ake, predominantly playing as a fullback, with Stones now playing the inverted wing back on the right, and Guardiola coming out and saying Kyle's going to have to figure out how to play the role on the right if he's going to play in this team. And the team is so much better for it because now Grealish gets that support from Ake being a more traditional fullback, so he can flourish and he can get the most out of his £100 million man on the left wing.
Yeah.
Who has De Bruyne sitting in behind him, Haaland stretching the defence in front of him, creating this monster pocket in that channel for him to just do what he wants. And the penalty comes from, let's just get the ball to the guy who can dribble his feet, let him do something, put a ball into the box. It's either someone's hitting that on the edge of the box, it's going to Haaland, or he's creating a penalty. And the last 5 weeks, Grealish has been fantastic because he's been given a license to be the Grealish that was at Aston Villa. And that's why I'm in the pro-City camp as much as I don't want to be. Because when you can just turn a £100 million signing on like that and just shift the way you're playing to make it work, there's Foden, there's Mahrez, there's Gundogan, there's Bernardo Silva, who started the season and can't get a sniff now. Who's to say that he's now fresh and they give him a run of 5 games to play in the middle with De Bruyne and he starts dictating the tempo and running games because he's fresh? That's my worry if I'm Arsenal. Same team, same 11 for Arsenal every game versus these superstars that are roaring to be involved.
Correct. And I think that's always been the case with City. You always feel that their second team, we say it every week, their second team could win the Prem.
Yeah.
Right, with all the right things being said. By the way, I do believe Stone scored first from outside the edge of the box in that game, and so that means they probably scored 3 by half time. I'm like nearly 90% sure I was thinking about that as you were saying it. But with that being said,
you're right. It was 3-0 inside 25.
Yeah, that's it. With that being said, I just love what they've done with Ake, and that's freed up Grealish because he hasn't had someone encroaching in those areas that are inside for him, so he can drive inside. You might have saw last year, Cancelo was getting in those areas that Grealish maybe wanted to operate, or to start his movement in. And I just feel like Ake being traditional has allowed for Grealish to just flourish in this role. And we still haven't seen the best of Calvin Phillips. We still haven't seen the best of...
He's actually started getting some minutes lately too.
Yeah, I know, and you called for that
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a few episodes ago on the pod for him to get some minutes because they could transition to a few different things of what they could do. I don't think Kyle Walker gets a game, mate.
No, not at the moment.
For what John Stones did, I know we've been like, oh my God, Trent's playing inverted wing back and he looks great in the midfield, yada yada, Liverpool have been doing this for ages. Pep has this magical mind of being able to go, oh, that's an idea that can work, and he's crazy enough to put it into place.
And he's got the players that can do it, like putting Bernardo Silva at wing back too.
Stones has just looked... He looked like a midfielder. He played like a midfielder.
Yeah, he's got the technical ability to be able to do that role.
Look, and this is no disrespect to any English players out there, any English fans that are of an English descent. He just looked like a Spanish ball player.
Yeah.
Like, he looked Spanish.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that might be crazy, but he was so controlled, it was calm. Yes, the goal was the goal, and I think anybody on their day can hit one sweet and it goes in. Doesn't mean that he's going to do it every week. But for me, it was the movement, how he gets on the ball and creates. And that just gives City a different beast because they're so dominant on the ball. If they've got to create those overloads, with now inverted wing backs getting into that midfield third.
But then
that
pushes him and Rodri as well together. It's like a Twin Towers situation physically.
How do you play against that? I feel like it's just so demanding that unless you're sitting there in like 2 banks of 4 and pray that they don't break you down somehow.
Yeah, and hit him on the break.
And then you're not going to do it. So for me, I'm very much in the same camp as you. City are favourites from here because I feel like Arsenal had to keep the pressure on. I was very interested to see what this City side without Cancelo and a couple others would have done if Arsenal won out until they game. Hasn't happened. I think City are favourites.
Yeah, City have to be favourites going into that game at the Etihad, which is still a little bit away. I'm just pulling up the stats from the City-Leicester game because when you look at it from afar, Leicester had enough in this game. But this has been the issue with Leicester for all season, is like not clinical and they're leaking goals. That's what happens when you lose 3-1.
Yeah.
But you have 29% possession, but you still get 11 shots away, and both teams had 4 shots on target. Now, I'm not going to justify the quality of chances that City had, because City typically get the balls into the boxes,
Correct.
which make Haaland's life a lot easier
Yeah.
because he's finishing from 6 yards out, 12 yards out. But when you've got 11 shots, 4 of those on target, I think Maddison, I feel sorry for him because he's creating a lot for the players around him, and they're not taking those chances. We did a big chat a couple of weeks ago about relegation. I said Leicester were going down. This is right around the time when Brendan got the sack, because I didn't see where the goals came from. And this is the thing. We've said Maddison can create and do it all. Daka's shown that he's not scoring goals. Vardy's not the player he was, and really they shouldn't be relying on a mid-30s Jamie Vardy. Harvey Barnes, it's dried up, and I think they're still playing Michael Brighton on the right wing.
Look, for me, there's one guy you didn't mention there, and this is the guy that I've been screaming that Leicester should be starting game week in, game week out, and it is Iheanacho. Because if Iheanacho is the one that Maddison's giving the service to, proven that he puts up enough XG, he eventually scores.
And
I think they need goals. Weekend. He needs goals. And that's the sort of thing is that, I don't know what it is at Leicester, but he always finds a way to not be in the starting 11.
Must be an attitude thing, surely.
It has to be, because he's so good at what he does do in the moments that he creates. I think for Leicester as well, the biggest issue was that they looked at times really uncompetitive. They looked, you know what, and this is where it probably
I feel
sits.
for their defence.
They looked championship quality.
Yeah, if I bring up their lineup,
yeah.
So they've gone to a back 3 now because they're panicking. Dean Smith is not an ideal manager for this situation either. They've made a goalkeeper change. So Ward's not started the last month.
Yeah.
Fayez, Suter, Soyuncu. Soyuncu we know has been done for so long.
Yeah.
Suter, I feel sorry for him because he only walked in January.
Creates the goal anyway.
And Fayez, I don't mind him, but again, I haven't seen enough of him. But
I actually think personally he's a little bit of a train wreck. I still remember the day at Anfield for him.
Well, yeah.
And to be fair, he gets quite beat a lot. Leicester's big problems, they never replaced Fofana properly.
Yeah.
And
but
then,
if you look at this team, though,
yeah,
Ndidi, Tielemans, that's a good enough 2 to go with Castagna, and then normally it's Luke Thomas who came on.
Yeah.
If you're going to play a 5, it's not a bad 5. That's not a bad 5. Like, I know Soyuncu's really out of form. He's not the player he was 2 years ago.
Correct.
But Soyuncu, Suter, Fayez, we spoke about this on the relegation episode. They've lost a lot in Schmeichel. They've lost leadership. They've lost experience. Wes Morgan, those players there. We know they've lost a lot there lately.
Correct.
But when you've got, I don't know Christensen, he's a new signing, he came in January. But then Dewsbury Hall, Maddison, Vardy as a 3, that, like a Vardy from now shouldn't be starting. He's not scored really at all season. He's your impact guy that if you are chasing, he'll give you 25 minutes. That's how he should be used, not the other way around. So Iheanacho, maybe you take one of these number 8s out as well, or the 2 10s, and you play 2, and you play Daka with Iheanacho, and you go, let's just sit a bit deeper, let Ndidi be the floater, let Tielemans play next to him, and then get the fullbacks up and running with 2 guys who are quick, lethal, exciting in behind. Maybe you stretch defences that way.
Look, and that's the thing, you look at the lineup and you go, you know, is it really that different from the last couple of years they've been fighting for Europe? And I'm actually going to go out there and say, yeah, it is. Like, you obviously had Sunchu in better form. You obviously had Schmeichel. And for me, you had Tielemans in a much better form, being able to dominate a game.
Should have told him last year.
That's the thing, is they never really went and reinvested this season. And it's bitten probably a little bit too much. The thing is, when you get off to a really poor start like they did, they were really horrid, really unsettled. It's always hard to claw your way back. And the Premier League can be brutal. You only have to be off by 5% and anyone's going to beat you.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, for Maddison in particular, how are you meant to be motivated as... Look, he's borderline world-class on his day.
Yeah.
But he's a very good Premier League player.
And knowing that Newcastle are probably going to come knocking.
You look, I think there's multiple clubs that he goes to. I think he can go to Newcastle. I think if Villa get into Europe. I think he would fit into Villa. I think if Liverpool really wanted to go down that route, they could as well.
They're going to go the McAllister route, it looks like.
Yeah, but and then hang on a second. If McAllister goes wide, doesn't Brighton go pick him up?
I could even see him go to United, and Bruno plays that deeper role.
Yeah, like there's so many options for Maddison. So how in this position are you as a world class player meant to be motivated when you actually? And I feel sorry for him because it looks like he tries. He actually puts up decent.
Well, he ends up on the right wing, doesn't he? A lot too. So he's out of position.
He puts up a lot of expected assist XG too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, the poor bloke needs quality around him. And the thing is he's probably not played in a team lacking this much quality. Vardy's not the same player he was either.
Yeah. So I don't mind if Dewsbury Hall comes out of this 10 role, plays with Ndidi in the 8. You drop Tielemans because he's been dreadful this year. You're playing him on a name at the moment. He needs a wake-up call. Dewsbury Hall drops in with Ndidi as your box-to-box midfielder. Madison slides into the vacant 10. And then you're playing Iheanacho and Daka and you're going, boys, give me something. Just... Let the ball hit Madison's feet and run off him.
They could go that way, or for me, it's you go to a 4, and people think, but
they can't defend in a 4.
The thing is people think, if you're playing in a 5, a 5 is very defensive because you've got 5. No, it's
conceding
not.
Now. Yeah.
It's not, because if your fullbacks are the players that are giving you big amount of width, then what you're going to do is still going to get caught like they are with players up the park, wing backs out of position. Sometimes when you go and set up a 4, it's a 4, but you're telling Christensen, Castagna, whatever, just sit.
Yeah.
Just sit and screen. You don't need to go up that high. And that allows Tielemans to stay in the team, because I think you need to get your most quality players on when you're down there. And then that allows you to play a 4-2-3-1, for instance, or 4-4-2.
Yeah, 4-3-3.
Or 4-3-3, and get an extra midfielder. Allows Dewsbury Hall maybe to go into the midfield, and then allows you to play another winger. Daka can play off the left. Iheanacho can play off the left. Or off Madison to the left, and then obviously it's one of them on the right. I think it's at that time now where Leicester is critical. I actually think that they are in big trouble. The stat they mentioned was they've never lost this many games in the Premier League and not gone down.
20 out of 31. So
it's not good. And for a team that was borderline should have finished in the Champions League a couple of years ago, and been
for
part of Europe
years as well. And we're in Europe last year.
Yeah, I just think it's
a bit much for them to come back from. I think
correct.
Them and Southampton are pretty well locked in. I know they're only 2 points out, and we're going to talk about this now. They're only 2 points out of safety, but I just don't see where they're going to get a win from. So they got Wolves this week.
Must win, because Wolves aren't scoring goals particularly.
Well, they won 2-0 this week.
Yeah, one of them though, Diego Costa's goal was very lucky.
So lucky.
Very lucky. He just gets kicked into him.
Yeah.
But good on Costa.
They're pushing away. The big result, I think, that's starting to open this gap up now is the Bournemouth win against Spurs. In the last dying seconds, has pushed Bournemouth from right in the hunt to probably a little bit of breathing room. Now, we have mentioned that they've got one of the worst goal differences in the league because of the 9-0 smoking they copped from Liverpool. But West Ham getting a draw was massive. Leeds are really in trouble with that third spot after this morning too. Got smacked up 6-1 by Liverpool. Everton, I think, will do enough under Dyche to find results.
He just knows how to get results.
Enough home games to get them enough points to probably get away from Leeds and West Ham. So for me right now, I feel like it's going to be a real dogfight between Forest and Leeds for that last spot that's sitting outside relegation zone. I love, whose comments was it? I think it was Marcus Tavernier posted something on TikTok I saw about Danjuma, because Danjuma was celebrating the goal, and then he's reposted their final goal. It's like, who would have thought this celebration was for nothing, and it kicks to their winner. I thought that was a bit of a dig at Danjuma for jumping ship when they could have probably used his services this year. But look, there's going to be plenty to unfold from the relegation side. I don't want to unpack it all today, because by the time we come to next week, it's going to be all different again.
So much is going to play out, but I want to touch on the actual Bournemouth game itself and how well Bournemouth played. And this is the thing, is you could get into this sort of way of, you're in the relegation fight, we really need to not concede, we really need to set up, we really need to not play, we need to make sure we don't concede goals. Can we get it to 0-0 to the 75th minute and then look to pinch a winner? It wasn't a relegation side sort of performance. They actually went out there. Yes, they received a lot of pressure. Yes, they defended to the last man at times. And yes, look, on a different day, maybe Harry Kane scores too. But they withstood that pressure, and they scored
Yeah.
3 against a pretty decent Spurs side, which obviously that's massive for them in Europe.
Yeah.
But it's the goals and the way they went about it, and
Getting Solanke fit back as well is huge for them.
And look, and we're Liverpool fans, and we're glad we sold him. Let's not be honest. But he was, well, let's be honest, we're glad we sold him. But what a player he's been for them once fit.
Yeah.
I never knew he was that clinical once given an opportunity.
Yeah.
And
I think it got his confidence from that year in the championship too, because he scored bags in the championship
got
last
overlooked
year.
because of Mitrovic, but he scored a lot.
Yeah. Well, Mitrovic broke the bloody record, but
Yeah.
then Solanke was only a handful of goals behind him. So,
Yeah.
and we've seen strikers transition from the Championship into the Premier League as well.
Correct.
We've seen Ivan Toney go League One, Championship, Premier League. We've seen Ollie Watkins go Championship, Premier League. We've seen not Danny Ings was a while ago with Burnley.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see a trend of if you're scoring bags. Tammy Abraham did it for Aston Villa as well, whilst on loan. If you can get 30 goals in the Championship, you're probably transitioning to 15 to 20 in the Premier League because the gap's not that far anymore. Like
Correct.
we see these Championship sides that push it to the end because the money's just that good in England that the quality's there.
I still think anyone in the top 8 in the Championship could be a Premier League club that stays up in the next season.
Especially the ones that parachute. Because the money just stays there.
Money's huge. That's why Norwich keep coming up and down, up and down.
They're going to struggle this year, but
yeah, that's a different episode. We will do our customary 1 year of what does the Championship look like episode. Don't worry, that will come out later on in the year. But for me, it's more the fact that they haven't really had a penalty either, and Solanke's their penalty taker. That's the other big thing.
Yeah.
That if Bournemouth are doing this without any massive slices of luck, yes, Spurs had 24 chances and did not score, only scored 2. I still think there's a world where Bournemouth are still going to get a few more results. I think that's a win that if you're looking at that like Leicester, that's a team we can't catch now. 34 points, 33 points, and we're on 25. That's a team we can't catch.
Unless they have to go and beat them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, there is a case that Bournemouth could go lose the last 7 games because it's Bournemouth.
But
I
again,
don't see
you
that
give them
happening.
enough. Like these guys have enough home games. All they got to do now, all these sides here have to do is go get results in their home games, and they're literally home.
Yeah.
Because if you can get 3 or 4 results and you're already 5 points clear,
it's massive. They're 6-pointers because that just runs the other opposition out of game, out of time.
Yeah.
You know, and look, if I'm Leicester, I'm very worried, and if not, well, if Southampton are done at 23 points, and we're only 2 points ahead, why are we not done? Why are we not done? Why are we not cooked? The only reason that you do that is because it's Leicester, and you know that the quality is there, and a lot of people tell you the quality will shine through. Should have shined through by now.
Yeah, I agree. And they've only won 7 out of 31 games, which is criminal for how good they are.
And I think they need to get to 11 wins. I think they need to get to 10 wins.
I think that their focus needs to be West Ham, Leeds slipping in order for them to get out.
Yeah.
I think it's out of their control now. I think they're relying on them winning plus West Ham and Leeds probably starting to stumble. But look, we'll probably do another couple of weeks where we'll go through that relegation when it's a bit clearer. I think, again, lots to play out. We'll get another episode up next week. It's an interesting week next week because there's some FA Cup games, there's some Premier League games, there's going to be so many games in hand for some teams. Brighton, again, are going to get another game in hand on a few teams that are in and around that European spot. So there's lots to happen. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow and do all the things you need to on all the podcasting platforms to make sure you get notified because the episodes are going to be a bit sporadic. So some will be, ideally, they're coming out on Mondays with a Sunday recording, but I can't guarantee that all the time. But make sure you get all those notifications on so you do know when they drop. Make sure you're in the Discord. I do add that link in. I normally write in there when it's gone live. So you get a little message saying that the pod's live. Especially now that we're throwing them up on YouTube for the time being for the rest of the season as well. So if you do enjoy it, I'll be checking who subscribes from the videos as well. So make sure if you're at this point, if you've watched for 28 minutes, make sure you're subscribing. Because I think if we've held your attention for this long, we deserve a subscribe. So Damo, thanks for your time once again.
That's okay, mate. It's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. And, big shout-out as well after this week. Make sure you remember in your fantasy teams that the deadline's only 2 days after that too. Just thought I'd do that public service announcement.
Yeah, that's mental. All right, well, we will see you guys next week for another episode, and we'll go from there.